Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of dark ambient, checking out music that is, dark and ambient as it suggests. Today we're going to be looking at the group, band, artist, The Body. The track specifically does not bode well given this is dark ambient. It is called Hail to Thee, Everlasting Pain. So, let's dive into this and see what's going on.
Recently, another guy just killed himself the other day, and he left a note saying that y'all have to live around all this craziness, and I'm gone.
Such a weird beat. Feels like it's rushing. My instinct tells me we're in like something like 1516. I can try to force a 4/4 on it, but it is so resistant to that. Also, just to note, I think this is the loudest song we've ever had on the channel, like legit volume wise. Yeah, every sound is so massive. There's so much width to everything. And it's also punchy, a lot of emphasis on the attack. You see what I'm talking about? These big sounds, though? Okay. This song is massive. I think we can all agree on that. The sounds themselves are larger than life and are constantly put right up against pure silence so you can feel every bit of this change. Or I should say, every bit of the weight against the change. I mean, that's the whole point of contrast, especially something as large as this, as pure silence to this ridiculously loud bass tone, is to showcase just how different they are and to emphasize the differing characteristics of each. But we also get to hear those really low tones in isolation. We get to really understand what they're doing. Granted, they then bring in screams and percussive elements and other stuff, but usually that first hit is just the bass, and you really get to feel it in your body. I bet this song just works. You can feel it in your body when you got a good set of speakers in front of you. Or, also live, which I feel like I would be crushed from the sonic weight if I ever saw this performed live. I can't imagine 20, 30, 50 speakers in front of me just blasting this. And to me, that width, the production on everything, the size of these sounds, that is the key characteristic here. It is what makes every aspect of this feel the way it does. And it's the first thing we hear. The song can kind of be divided into three sections. All three of them have heavy usage of this low bass hit. The first time we get a little bit of an odd rhythmicality to it, but I feel like it lines up a bit better in the second and third phases of the track. I don't know if that's because I got used to it. I don't know if that was because the instruments around it gave it temporal context. I'm not sure, but when it kicked in at the beginning, it was very strange metrically. But it's there throughout the entire song in various versions of itself. At the beginning, we get 2 hits per repetition with some space between them. The second time through, we get 1 hit per repetition. We get this really big bassy punch and then a bunch of silence, at least on the low end. It's more of allowing that to trail off. And the 2 hits per phrase comes back in our final section. So this is very much the foundation of the song. And it provides a lot of the textual information, at least for me, of what the song is attempting to do. But the bass isn't the only aspect. It would be wrong to completely omit the atmospheric sounds that accompany our bass. These provide some harmonic notions that, while not really aiming for anything, presenting itself as a chord, we do have a series of notes that inform a chordal idea. And to me, everything that the harmonic information is encoding in here is terror. It's haunting. It's eerie. It is scary. But it's not like cheap horror where we have jump scares and tension. I think that's what it is. I don't want to necessarily call it cheap horror because I like PG-13 horror flicks. Even if they don't have a lot of terror to them, they're still fun. They're like they're like the popcorn summer blockbusters of the horror genre. This is not that though. This is that really deep psychological terror that sticks with you after the film is over. This is existential dread. This is cosmic horror. This is this is just larger than life, and it is terrifying. And a lot of the chordal stuff works with the atmospheric stuff, or very large bassy sound at the bottom, to inform me of this. So, we have larger than life sounds, we have terrifying note information, pitch information. It's really tough to call it chordal information. Harmonic information, I guess, is the best we have. It's not really chords, though. It's time we talk about the vocals. What in the world? I don't know what was said at all. There was something at the beginning about finding a suicide note. And as he started to read what it said, that's when the music kicked in and the distortion crunched up, and I couldn't even make out what was said after that. And from that point on, the vocals made no auditory sense to me as far as linguistics go. The distortion completely covers up any sort of enunciation, any sort of inflection. The destruction of the sound completely annihilates any spoken element of it. I can tell it's a voice, but that really is the end of it. Everything else is so. There's so much destruction going on the sound that it's twisted and contorted into almost just white noise at times. Occasionally a bit rhythmic, but even the syllables, which should provide some sort of cadence to it, and does on occasion, gets eaten up by the destruction of the sound. And it just becomes a long string of white noise. And that's terrifying. At least to me. And I say this as somebody who talks to people through a camera, but still talking. Talking is the way I make money. It's my job. So I understand that I might be a little close to this, but the idea of losing my ability to communicate, not necessarily losing my ability to speak. My vocal cords aren't, being destroyed. My tongue isn't cut out. I can still make the sounds, but I can't communicate with other people. My thoughts are not coming through my speech. That is terrifying, to lose that connection with people. The linguistic one, the one that helps us connect most easily with other people. And again, it's not a physical loss. My mouth isn't, removed, Agent Smith style, just taking the mouth away. I still have the ability to make noise, just no one can understand it. That's what everything about these vocals feel like to me. And so there's this incomprehensible weight tied with some sort of cosmic fear, terror, uh, discomfort, eeriness, all wrapped up and paired with one of the most terrifying things I think could happen to somebody. And it creates a song that leaves me exceptionally uncomfortable. I think what's worse is that they don't find just one way to communicate this. We go through three phases, well, I guess two variations on our opening idea, but three ways to explore this concept of weight atmospheric terror, putting that emotion into the music itself, and then this body horror nightmare fuel in the lyrics or in the vocals. And they go about it in multiple ways, show different facets of it, and it's almost like someone realizing they can't communicate the way they normally want to. Like with the voice getting warped and distorted in our opening few moments, and trying other ways to get their message across, but everyone being just as futile as the last. What truer concept of everlasting pain could there be than to exist but not be understood, not be able to make that connection with people? Well, I mean, it just clicked with me that we have sign language. So maybe that's not necessarily the angle they were going for. Like I said, I might be a little too close to that one, given that um, talking to people is sort of what I do all day in a roundabout way, and expressing my thoughts and making connections with people. But there is text, writing, sign language. There's other ways to get about it. But in that moment of losing one's voice, I bet that's terrifying. At least I think it would be. I'm gonna hit some lyrics and we'll wrap this one up, I suppose. Surprise, surprise, there are none. It seems more and more often as we hit projects like this where the lyrics are so distorted, so destroyed, so much compression and distortion put on them that they've reached a point where they're pure texture. These also seem to be the projects that don't have the lyrics published, and that's probably because they're not important, at least to the artists, or maybe they just prefer it to be ambiguous, an anomaly. I don't know. It does seem to be a trend, though. There are a couple of places who have published. Well, they're all different. So I'm going to assume that they're what people heard in the opening spoken word line. But it's one sentence. It's not a lot to go off of. I don't know. What did what did y'all think of this? Those are my thoughts on the body's Hail to Thee, Everlasting Pain. Let me know your thoughts, your perspective, how you felt listening to this, all that stuff down in the comments section. Above that, in the description box, you can find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, a link to the Discord server, ways to support the channel, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell, I greatly appreciate all three. We have a special selection coming up next. Otherwise, I'll catch y'all tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC, as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.